This evening, otherwise cloudy, low tonight at 66. Some sun, it'll be hot and humid tomorrow, the high at 90. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. I'm a little bit leery to ascribe too much credibility to anything that Axios reports. But it is interesting. I mean, it's somewhat against interest to report that there is grave concern among some in Biden's inner circle about his current messaging and thus his prospects for winning re-election. Senior Democrats, including some of President Biden's aides, increasingly dubious about his theory for victory in November, which relies on voter concerns about Jan 6, political violence, democracy, and Donald Trump's character. That is the approach that is been promulgated by his longtime aide, Mike Donilon, who Axios reports has the complete trust of former Biden Chief of Staff Ron Klain. Donilon suggests that Joe Biden is a great president. A great president gets reelected.
The end.
He's a great president. Great presidents get reelected. That's just how it goes. Okay. Biden advisors told Axios people have clearly not heard from Mike or anyone on the team. The president's detailed case for reelection. Well, right. I mean, to some extent, I agree with Donilon in this limited way. It's not about Biden making a case for re-election. It's completely about making making Trump more box office poison than he is. This is Obama re-election strategy. You have to vilify and demonize and thus marginalize Mitt Romney. I'm not uncomfortable. I'm not really happy with the first term, but we can't have Romney. He's Hitler. And so now they're doing the same thing, although the case is a little bit more difficult, perhaps easier to make when you have a convicted felon, rightly or wrongly. That's the jacket he is going to wear, and they're going to put $500 million probably behind making him wear that jacket. Here's something else Donilon said. This is interesting. I haven't seen any polling that substantiates this, but he said the Democratic Party didn't want to believe that 2004 was a 9/11 election. You know, where Bush narrowly defeated Kerry. I decided after the election I would never be part of a presidential campaign that didn't figure out with clarity what it wanted to say and stick to it. And so that's what Donilon is doing. He thinks this is a January 6th election like 2004 was a 9/11 election. It's a theory. Mm-hmm. For more on this and other vagaries of the passing political scene, David Harsanyi, senior editor at the Federalist, Federalist.com, author of Eurotrash, Why Americans Must Reject the Failed Ideas of a Dying Continent. We just talked about that with Dominic Green earlier in the show.
We sure did.
David, thanks for joining us as always. Appreciate it.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
So what about top aide Donilon's reported philosophy about this election that there's a parallel? It's as 2004 was a 9/11 election, 2024 is a J6 / convicted felon election.
I just don't see that, and I guess so. The Al Qaeda in this instance are Trump supporters.
Yes,
I guess.
right.
And I just don't think that most Americans believe that. I think most Americans aren't thinking about January 6th, certainly, and they understand that the word democracy has no real meaning when Democrats talk about it, or the real meaning is whatever Democrats are after in that moment. So most polls show it actually way down in list of concerns. So I think it's a distraction. I don't think it's a good way to go about the election, but, I'm not a professional politico.
Do you think that his pivot this week, I'm talking about the big guy, Mr. 10%, President Biden's pivot this week on immigration, is that enough to blunt his sort of responsibility for the chaos? And, the way that we've been talking about it, or I've been talking about it, is like I'm starting to get the sense that the stories of like Laken Riley and Rachel Morin and this Scott Miller, the 64-year-old who was killed by an illegal who had been deported 16 times in Colorado in a traffic fatality. I'm starting to get the sense that people's reaction to it is sort of like built into the price of urban center chaos, the way that indigenous violent crime is, and you just don't get much reaction and thus you don't get much political movement.
I'm not sure about that. I don't know that polls reflect people's anxieties over what's, the anarchy at the border and the resulting crime completely, because it's the sort of thing that you don't want to say are against immigration or against migrants. Those words have a certain kind of meaning to people. So
right.
I always thought 2016 immigration played a massive role in it. I think Democrats, no self-aware being will accept or believe that Joe Biden is the guy who's going to help shut down the border over Donald Trump. I just don't think that that's anything anyone actually believes. So I don't know that his moves, he's sending mixed signals as well, but I don't think his moves really change that dynamic, and I think that dynamic does actually matter, if that makes sense.
Yeah. He's not trying to be the I shut down the border guy. He's trying to be the, I'm always finding the middle way, common ground guy. We have to have legal immigration, but we also have to, protect ourselves. So I issue this, ersatz executive order on the border security side for marketing purposes. And then I do this amnesty play with spouses of American citizens who've been here more than 10 years because I'm for family reunification. See how I balance the issue?
Right. But I think also when the economy is not doing well, or people perceive it not to be doing well for good reason sometimes, they do tend to blame immigrants, rightly or wrongly, or migrants, illegal immigrants. When there's crime, they tend to do that as well. So I think it matters more than people believe, and I don't think it works for Biden.
Well, what do you make of Hunter Biden's conviction on those gun charges? Does that prove that Biden's DOJ is, fair, and that the justice system is all good now? Because, the left was celebrating his conviction, saying, see, this is not a corrupt system.
If it had been up to the DOJ, it never would have been on trial to begin with. It would have been up, they tried to pass off the most extraordinary immunity deal that possibly never existed, So, no, I don't think so. Though I do have this hope that that case goes up to the Supreme Court and they overturn, they overturn some gun laws that I think are unfair on background checks. That would be amazing. Biden v. Biden.
Yes, right. No, exactly right. The expansive reading of the Second Amendment to get Hunter Biden off the gun charges. No, it would be a beautiful political moment. And constitutional one as well. Speaking of which, the presidential immunity case, that we may expect a decision here today on that.
Oh yeah.
And Trump's legal travails. My view is until he gets sentenced on July 11th and we have that moment, it's really hard to say where people are coming down on this. The convicted felon campaign ad barrage is just starting. I certainly don't think it's a kill shot, but I also think Trump is probably going to have to do more on that issue than he's done so far in terms of just decrying the judge and decrying the lawfare and so forth.
Yeah, I do agree with you. I don't think you're bringing any new people into your camp because of the lawfare. Maybe it strengthens your supporters, resolve to vote for you to some extent. But at some point, you're going to have to get more deeply into it and explain why it's lawfare. And some of these cases, the Bragg case, I think it's more obvious than others. Then there's obviously the double standards when it comes to classified documents. So I think there's a good argument for Trump to make. I don't really know that he's making it specifically enough.
What are you looking forward to in the debate this Thursday?
Nothing.
Because you and the rest of the world will be watching, right? You're not looking forward to it?
I am sort of. Trump's, I have to
the
say Trump's
post-debate
very
jello? Yeah.
Trump's entertaining, right? And it'll probably be entertaining. There is a danger there for Republicans in the sense, I think that the expectations for Biden are so incredibly low that he might, exceed them, and that could be somewhat problematic. But it'll be nice to see them going at it finally. It'll be entertaining.
Which I guess two questions, one for each side. On the Biden side. I mean, the rumors persist that if he doesn't perform well in the June 27th debate, then that's when Michelle Obama or Gavin Newsom or somebody swoops in and they are installed at the convention, and it's an entirely different race for the final 4-month sprint. Do you subscribe to any of those theories that there's some conspiracy afoot or contingency plan in the making to depose Biden somehow, some way?
Not really. It's incredibly difficult to do. The incumbency matters, but also just, shifting an entire presidential campaign. You're talking about, a $1 billion operation to some other person. Another thing that people don't, I think, take into account is that you have human beings here, and Biden is not just going to step aside. Then then there's going to be a fight over who takes his place. They're not going to agree. I mean, Kamala's not going to step aside, and she's incredibly unpopular. So I find it hard to believe. I mean, I have no inside information, but it seems very unlikely to me.
Well, and on the Trump side, does he sort of flip the script to whatever comes on July 11th, assuming he's still walking around a free man or semi-free man, and before June 27th by rolling out his vice presidential running mate, and any particular, not necessarily predictions, but what you think would be in his best interest for a running mate?
Well, the running mate matters for a week usually, and then no one talks about it again, really, or it does. I don't think it really shifts momentum or anything like that. I think he could use someone like, and I don't mean ideologically, but someone like a Cheney, meaning someone who is going to manage his campaign, give him sound advice if he takes it, and it doesn't want to be president. Basically, I think he needs someone to help him hire the right people, forge the right kind of policies. He didn't have that in his first term. It was constantly firing people. It was like anarchy in that administration. So I think he needs someone a professional type who's going to calm him down.
Oh, that's an interesting, because, my sort of posture was, well, you have to make a legacy pick. You have to pick somebody that you want to level up as the nominee in 28 to continue the policies and so forth. And you're saying do the opposite, just have a steady hand that's not going to be involved in 28, and then it's an open forum in 28.
Sounds like Mike Pompeo.
Maybe. The vice president hasn't been that really in a while. Maybe Kamal's going to run. I don't know. But I just feel like he needs to professionalize his administration better than last time, where it was just, people were being fired every day. And a lot of people, listen, I don't like some of the things Trump wants to do, but when he's president, he wins the election, he needs people who are going to shepherd through, who are going to take on his agenda, who agree with him on stuff. And you had a lot of people who didn't, and it was just kind of backstabbing all the time, books coming out, this, that. And he's going to have all these agencies against him, right? DOJ, everyone. So he needs someone to be able to deal with all that.
No, it's an interesting way to possibly position it too. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, I really thought he could go that direction, but maybe he could. Of course, that would be great too, because if you had somebody maybe like a Pompeo as that steady hand or something, no interest in running in 28, then that's just going to feed up all the left conspiracy theories. See, he's never going to leave. He's not. He's not running with a potential successor.
I thought he wasn't supposed to leave the White House last time too.
Yeah, right.
Remember?
Yeah, nothing you do is going to stop conspiracy theories from blooming on this. So it's a kind of irrelevant. But you're definitely right. That would be the conspiracy theory.
David Harsanyi, senior editor at the Federalist, Federalist.com, author of Eurotrash, Why America Must Reject the Failed Ideas of a Dying Continent. David, thank you.
Anytime. Thank you.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
You're listening to Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
A violent crime is committed every 24 seconds. The U.S. Concealed Carry Association exists to provide you with firearms education, training, and access to self-defense liability insurance. So when trouble comes, you'll be ready. Over 800,000 Americans trust the USCCA, and right now, there's an exclusive, limited-time offer for radio listeners. Go to defendfamily.com to get a free family defense guide, a survival secrets training video from a retired FBI agent, and see all the benefits of membership. Go to defendfamily.com now.
From breaking news and weather across the country to insight from the bright